All right, so I guess I will officially begin. I have a sign-in sheet. You don't have to use it, but I might pass it around. I'm Jeff Stamansky, and I've been working with these programs for 5, almost 6 years now. I'm the executive director of a nonprofit that's based here in New York. It's called the Center for Economic and Environmental Partnership. And I was selected, my nonprofit was selected by the administrator. Let's go point to things. This company up here, Jewel Community Power, it's a division of Jewel Assets. That is a for-profit company that's based in Westchester. That is a company that was instrumental in helping the state design these programs. It's a company that is not an energy supplier, they're a program company. That's what they do. They basically try to bring benefit to individual small customers, including commercial customers, that large companies usually get. CCA is that in a nutshell. It's a way to deliver the benefits that large organizations usually get for individual small account holders, like homeowners. So Jewel is a state-approved administrator for this program that we'll talk about in a second. And every one of the communities here, now we're up to 12 communities in this current aggregation, to use the term, that are all partners in this thing. Hudson Valley Community Power is not a company, it's not an organization, it's a partnership. So Hudson Valley Community Power is all of the partner communities, and the town of Rhinebeck is one of them. They all chose Jewel to be as part of the process after each one of them passed a local law to do this program. They all chose Jewel to be their administrator, and then Jewel going beyond the requirements of the state program. And this is a state-enabled program. It's not a state-run program, but it's overseen by the Public Service Commission, and there are rules to how the program must operate. There is required outreach as part of the launch of the program, and when we launch it during the launch phase. But Jewel's decision in knowing what this would be like, and knowing how much kind of hand-holding and education is required in this complex energy space, chose to partner with a nonprofit wherever it's doing CCA programs to be the outreach arm throughout the life of the program. So we've done, this is the third iteration of contracts that we've been working with communities in the Hudson Valley. So my nonprofit has been there throughout. We do public outreach events, we answer the helpline, we answer emails, we continue to do in-person meetings throughout. So I'm not up here, my company, my nonprofit's not shown up here, but I'm a partner in this partnership as well, along with the towns and cities and village. And so what this program is there's a little bit of a good policy story behind this, if you'll forgive the indulgence of talking policy, but it's based on anything that any individual customer could do. And there's a number of things you can do under this program, but we're just pretty much going to talk about two things tonight. One of them being this buying club for electricity supply, which is, again, something that every individual customer could do since the 1990s, when the state deregulated the energy marketplace. The other thing I'll talk about, which it can be done under this umbrella, but I'll talk about it just because so many people confuse it with this program, and I understand why, because they share so many words together. But we're going to talk about this community choice aggregation program for electricity supply. The other thing I will talk about, and I'll really talk about it when we're looking at an example of a Central Hudson bill, is something called community solar, which is something that a lot of people are hearing about, a lot of people are doing. I'm doing it for my house in Beacon, but it's something that's completely parallel, separate from this program. All right, so we'll talk about what these things are. But again, buying electricity supply through a contract is something every individual customer could do. Signing up for community solar is something every utility customer can do in New York. What this program is, for a number of reasons I'll describe, the state allowed cities and towns and villages in 2016 to act on behalf of their community members, to give them a choice for electricity supply. And so it is a program where communities, let's go to the next slide, aggregate together for electricity choice. So let me go, so that's kind of the wonky name, and explain what the wonky name is all about. So that's that second bullet there. The wonky name of this program from the state perspective. I can use my shadow puppet here to point behind it. So right there, I can do a dog too. What is community choice aggregation? And again, it's communities aggregating together for choice. And there's choice about being in the program, and then if their program launches, when we're talking about the different rates, there's choices within the program. So I'm going to go through all of this, but I'll start with the opt-out letter, which I think many of you have gotten, and then I'll explain very simply what this program is. State-enabled program, it's a policy that gives power to cities and states and villages, cities, towns, and villages to form these buying clubs. It delivers benefits, back to my finger. It really helps to understand it by looking at the Central Hudson bill, so I'll do that. And we'll talk about who's included and who's not included. And that's the kind of the whole who's included, who will it affect me. Then we'll talk about where we are in the timeline, and then I'll be very redundant. I'll do some FAQs and talk about what this is about. But again, it's based on this principle. Well, let me show you. This is a letter that many people have gotten. It is official community program. Again, it has to be enabled by a local lawman. In 2016, and you'll see this on an upcoming slide, the Public Service Commission passed an order that allowed this to happen in New York State. It defines the steps that a community must go through to do a program like this. This is the town of New Paltz, there it is. This is showing the town of New Paltz, but I think those who have seen it, that the town of Saugerties seal is on the letter as well. So this program is an official town program, done as a public benefit for the community members. The town receives no benefit from doing the program. The town does not pay for the program either. It's a lovely symbiotic arrangement where they are basically taking advantage of this competitive marketplace, but to cut through a lot of the complexity and challenges and actually enter into contract on behalf of their community members to deliver a very transparent, fixed, and renewables-focused benefit to the community members. So using that analogy, it's a buying club like Costco or BJ's Wholesale where you can get something pretty good for a lot less money. So the reasons this was done, there's three, are one, because there is cost competitiveness to it. You know, we have a fixed rate that is competitive with the utility rates. And that's a bit of an apples and oranges story. And because we're focusing on renewables as the real premium product to offer at a really good rate. And it's appropriate that people will compare the renewable rate to what they would have paid if they stayed with Central Hudson's predominantly non-renewable rate. But again, it's an apples to oranges comparison. In an oranges to oranges or an apples to apples comparison, the rate that we get for renewables to the program is pretty much universally for a comparable contract period without any restrictions of opting in or out from New York State-based sources, much better than any individual could get on their own in a private contract. And third, there are numerous consumer protection elements to it, that no one is in a contract. It's very important that there's transparency to it. It's time limited on purpose. It's not something where the contracts that people have entered into can go on and on. This is a time-limited, transparent, fixed-rate program offering this option. Very importantly, what a lot of people don't realize when they're confronted with this letter saying that if they don't take action, they're surprised. A lot of people don't realize that this is not a new thing, that they're in an opt-out program for energy supply choice. All right, so keep that in mind. We've actually, since the 1990s, been in an opt-out program, and I'll describe what that is in a second. But in brief, you can describe what community choice aggregation is in one sentence. It is just a policy, a Public Service Commission order that established a policy to give cities and towns and villages the ability to form this buying club, to aggregate their community members for those three reasons I talked about: cost competitiveness, promoting renewables, and protecting people from the bad actors that do exist in the energy marketplace. So getting to that story, what it does, if a town passes a program, it shifts the selection of the default supplier from a state decision, a state-determined opt-out, to a local decision. So this opt-out condition that we have now as for the town and for the other communities that are part of this is the default choice. But it is replacing the default choice that's been in place since the 1990s. When the state deregulated the energy marketplace, it created this whole competitiveness where there's many, many companies like Aggregate, Iridian, Green Mountain Energy. This is where they came from. They offer private contracts to people. People could enter into them to seek better rates, or, for example, with Green Mountain Energy, they could do it if they want to support renewables, which typically comes with a not an insignificant premium, additional rate price. And if you did not go into that marketplace, if you did not take advantage of that marketplace, the default condition is that the utility company, the local utility company, will make that decision for you. Many people don't realize that that is a default condition, and many people don't realize that Central Hudson, our local utility company, they can't make money on that supply choice. They will do it because it's state required, but it's a pass-through cost for them. So you're in an opt-out condition to begin with. A lot of people bristle when they talk to us on the phone. They're like, I don't want my government telling me what to do about my energy choice. And we say, the government was telling you what to do for your energy choice. They were saying that the local utility would make your choice, and it actually confounded things because you thought they had a big monopoly, and you fear that if you leave them for the supply choice, they're going to penalize you, and it's not the case. So this is just a change in one default from another, and for the reasons that we talked about up there. I've been talking a lot, so let me just stop and see if there's any questions so far before I go on, before I trip myself on my wires. Yes?
Can I just ask, for clarification, how does this compare with an ESCO plan?
I mean, it is an ESCO plan.
Okay.
Somebody could look and shop, even going through the Central Hudson, to find all the options out there. You know, we offered a competitive process for ESCOs to bid to be part of the program. And that ESCO option requires you to enter into a private contract for some period of time, looking at the details of it, choosing source, making sure there's no fees, exit fees, etc. like that. The difference here is we did pick an ESCO, but the program, to use a term, handcuffs that ESCO into the requirements that are laid out in the three-party agreement between the municipalities, the administrator, and that supplier. And part of the requirement is that no one participating has any restrictions on them. That fixed rate is available to them for the duration, and if they want to leave at any time, they can at any time. And if they want to come back in, they can. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the difference, is the flexibility that's given to the community members to participate.
Can I just ask one follow-up question?
Absolutely.
With the sort of community buy-in, are you buying in with other municipalities that are already joining in on this, or is it just within your own?
No, I mean, Rochester, the city of Rochester, is its own aggregation. They're big enough to have leverage for suppliers to say, yeah, we want to be the supplier for that, thousands of utility customers. Around here, no individual municipality is big enough, so Jules' burden is to aggregate, to put them together. And so these 12 that I showed you on that opening seal, they aggregated together, they discussed, they looked at the rate options, they designed the RFP together, saying, hey, what do we want to require in the RFP? And then they had to collectively all decide on the same supplier and the same set of rates. So it is really an aggregation decision.
And is that a one-time thing?
Per contract period, yeah.
Per contract period. Okay.
Yep. So this is the first time for Rhinebeck, but some of those communities on there, it's their third contract that we've done this. Any yes?
As I understand it, once you opt in, you can opt out at any time.
Yes.
And having opted out, you can opt back in.
Yes.
So it seems to me that if the price of electricity drops substantially below what we've contracted for,
yes,
we'd simply opt out.
Yes.
And then if it goes back up, we'd opt back in.
Correct.
So we've essentially bought a floor on our electricity prices.
Correct.
It seems to me that that puts the suppliers in a considerable risk position.
It would, but human behavior is a funny thing. And there's a lot of experience that they have with this, and they know most people won't. So they figure that risk factor into it, and they are held to the requirement of that rate, and they do. And symbiotically and fabulously, it's worked out very well for many, many years. New York's not the first state to do this program. Every state does it a little bit different. California does it quite differently, but like half the state is in CCA programs now. But in essence, that's the fundamental nature of the model. And again, it's, you could say, some people might say, oh, human behavior, you're taking advantage of inertia in people. And that it's true. I mean, a lot of people won't opt out because of various reasons. Maybe they won't even pay attention and they stay in the program. That's okay by the design of the program because it is structured as a benefit without restrictions. But additionally, I make the other argument, being a behavioral specialist that I am, is that a lot of people want to do good things like choose renewables, but it's complex. And so I think that there's like a decision-making justice to the program, and that offering it on an opt-out basis delivers a pretty fabulous benefit to many people who want to support renewables but haven't for a number of reasons. I mean, there's a great Consumer Report survey that mirrors so many surveys out there about Americans, regardless of their political leanings, 75% of Americans believe that we should do more for renewables. And 60% say they'd pay for it too, if it had a benefit. So, but only about 10 to 15% of any population signs on to a private contract for various reasons, not least because they've had bad experiences in the past. So that's kind of the beauty of this program from my perspective. Yes, in the back. Is there a question? Oh, yes.
One of the things with the other things we were talking about when it came to all these years, we decided for solar fields and all this stuff, the big problem was that some people leave their electric at times and they're switching from Central Hudson to one of these others. I mean, who's the one who's turning their electric on and off in the house?
Very good. So I think you have a question about reliability, about electric service, actually having electricity service. I'm not sure the examples you're talking about when you're switching to a solar field about losing electricity.
They have those solar farms and things that you can sign up for.
You should not.
There were people that would lose electric because
I've not heard of that.
For whatever reason they had problems.
Yeah, I've not heard of that. And that'd be really unusual because this program, and I'll repeat it again, but very importantly, if you're in the program and you're in one of the renewable options, that does not mean that you're only getting renewable electrons to your home. It does not mean you're getting solar or hydropower or wind electrons to your home. It's appropriate, a little simplified, but appropriate to think about all of us being connected to the whole New York State grid, the whole connections of wires and every production source on there, including fossil fuel-based production sources and renewable production sources. Nothing physically changes through this program, nor does it change when you sign up for community solar. It briefly changes if you put solar on your home or business. If you have solar panels, they do disconnect you to do the connections and stuff like that. But generally, we're all connected to the New York State grid. And the New York Independent System Operator, the New York ISO, and the Public Service Commission, and the local utility. Again, Central Hudson is in the business to reliably deliver electricity. So they don't want you to have a disruption because they can't charge you for delivery then. They oversee the reliability of the grid. They want to make sure on a millisecond by millisecond basis there's enough electrons for all of us. And so even when we, through this program, through our consumer dollars, encourage the proportion of renewables to shift towards more renewables to this program, that's what we're doing. We're paying for. We have a guarantee that we're paying for renewables. It does put more renewables on the grid, but it never physically changes the connection to our houses. It does have real impacts on the proportion, but no disruption in reliability. And so I'm not sure about those cases. I'd be curious about people who've lost power when they've switched to community solar, because community solar is even more removed. Community solar is just a symbiotic financial arrangement that I'll talk about in a bit.
Well, it just seems, you're switching back and forth between Central Hudson and back and forth.
You never switch away from Central Hudson in terms of delivery, ever. For better or for worse, we have Central Hudson, and they own the wires, they own your meter, so you never leave Central Hudson, no matter what you do with this program or on your own.
So if I were to say, okay, I want to be on here, what happens to my billing?
I'll get to the bill, but it's basically a line item change in your supply charges section.
But could they make a mistake and think, oh, you opted out and you have Central Hudson, or oh, you wanted the other and we're not going to take care of you?
No, that's what I was saying before about remember I said the penalizing statement, people get concerned about being penalized as a delivery customer.
Well, I'm just saying a mistake, because then push the right button or whatever.
Yeah, not for delivery. There could be a mistake in the rates, and that's what our team is there to make sure. And mistakes happen, but we are there to fix it and make sure that people say, hey, my rate's not on here, why am I independent? And then we go and we make sure that it gets taken care of. And if there's a mistake monetarily, the team makes sure that it gets rectified too, like this payment back. Any other questions before I go on? Yeah.
You had said something before about contract periods. When does the contract end?
So this program, if you stay in the program, it goes on your bill in July, right after whenever the meter read dates for everybody differ. So after your meter read date in July, that's when Central Hudson makes a change in the bill, the line item change. And it runs through June of 2025, so 24 months.
So every year they do new contracts?
They can. We don't know what will happen in Rhinebeck. Many other communities did seamlessly go into another contract. We did have a hiccup period last year for reasons I'm glad to talk about. But yes, it's possible to seamlessly go from one fixed rate to another.
And if a contract's not renewed or a new contract signed, do we just default back to Central Hudson?
Exactly. So what happens, that's one of my FAQs. What happens after the program ends? And it's a question born out of people being in private ESCO contracts where if you don't end it, it just keeps going and it might do crazy things that you don't know about. When this program period ends, If the municipality doesn't repeat the whole process, including the public outreach and the letters and everything else, everyone just, as he said, goes right back to Central Hudson seamlessly, without penalty or extra fees or anything. Yeah?
The same thing would happen if you opted out, right?
Yes.
Just to go back to
Well, if you opt out in the 30 days, you never switch into the program,
No,
but later, yep,
you just
same
go back
thing.
to Central Hudson.
One billing period and you opt out.
And also, it puzzles me how you're able to set an absolutely clean date for a cutoff of the program unless you sync it up with meter reading.
It is based on meter reading.
Okay.
So
So it's
it
like the
starts
first
in July
half
for your meter read date, and then it ends in June on your meter read date.
Okay.
Yep.
In the letter that was sent out, it shows a list of product offerings, the standard, the 50%, and the 100%.
Yeah, so we're talking about here.
And that shows that the standard supply is less than Central Hudson, the other two are more. Two-part question, is that generally likely to be the trend? And you said that Central Hudson is 15% renewables. What is the standard roughly in percentage of
In reverse
renewables?
order, the standard is about the same proportion of renewables, about 10 to 15%.
Okay.
And to your first question, is that the trend you expect? We don't know. And that is the one risk of the program. You know that your rate's not going to change. The one and only risk is, as we said here before, Central Hudson's rate will be lower than our program rate some months, especially like we're going into more of the spring and the fall. That's when people use less electricity. There is going to be months when Central Hudson's rate is lower than our fixed program rate. But on average, we think it's going to bear out. And it is better typically that we've seen in the years we've been doing this during the high usage months, when everyone's using electricity in the summer, when everyone's using electricity in the winter for heating and lighting and everything else. Their rates go up, but not only do their rates go up, but our usage goes up. So when you multiply increased usage by the difference in rates, that's when the program really delivers benefits, typically. But there have been, generally, like if you looked at the 2 years that we did prior, Central Hudson's rate was higher than our program rate for pretty much the whole duration after the first few months.
So you're saying, I think, the renewables are probably comparable and the rate is likely better in the standard package? Is that about what
Well,
you're
the
saying?
standard is always going to be cheaper than our 100% renewable.
No, compared to Central Hudson.
Yeah, but in Central Hudson, it could be better. Our 100% renewable could be, and has been in the past.
No, the
could be
standard,
better than renewable. The standard, well, picture our program being 3 flat lines, 3 fixed rates for 24 months. And Central Hudson's fluctuating like this.
okay.
It's the same for all the rates. I mean, the 9.8 cents for the standard, it will be worse than Central Hudson some months, but it has a better chance of being better than the running average of Central Hudson over the life of the program, because it's about 2 cents cheaper than the 100%. All right, so I'll move on. So this is repetitive. What we're offering, though, the program benefit, and I already explained why we are offering. We didn't do this until this contract around. We only offered 100% and standard last time, and in previous contracts. Because of the kind of good story pressure, increased price of renewables, we did ask for a 50% renewable, and many communities chose to offer that as an additional option if people want to. So there's 2 renewable options. It is, again, about cost savings. We know they'll be competitive. We don't know if they'll ultimately save money, but we know these will stay competitive with Central Hudson's rates. But this is the consumer protection aspects. There's no contracts, so you can get in or out if you want. There's no exit fees. There's no funny business. There's none of the strange things that have happened with a lot of the bad actors. And I keep saying that, bad actor ESCO. There are a lot of ESCOs that are free, and many people have been happy with them. I'm currently in one right now because my city of Beacon did not do this program. It did previously, twice, and now it didn't. And so I'm going to be on city council next year because of that. All right, so very importantly, this is repeating the process. The point about Central Hudson does not get displaced. Central Hudson still delivers electricity. It still does storm damage repair. It still does the billing, for better or for worse, but very good on storm damage repair. They want to make sure you're getting your electricity, so if you're in the program or not, they are still going to repair the lines, and they're not going to delay coming to a community with CCA because they're indifferent to supply choice. So now we'll dig into the bill. This is what your bill looks like from standing 50 feet away from it, but this is the electric page. And I'm going to dig into those details. I'm going to zoom in here. All right, so this is actually my Central Hudson bill from a number of years ago. Let's put the microphone down a little bit. All right, this is a useful tour of your electricity bill. A lot of people don't realize that your electricity bill is actually 3 bills in one, just your electricity page. The top section here in the red box, that's the delivery charges section. With these 9 line items, this is the section that Central Hudson makes money on. These rates don't change generally. They do change, but they have to be changed when they ask the Public Service Commission through something called a rate case, a very formal process, to be able to change their rates. Unfortunately, they do that with frequency. But it's only every 3 or so years that anything will change in here. To say, if you're in this program, they can't compensate by charging you more in delivery charges if you're using our program. That's delivery charges. That does not change. The red box indicating does not change. What will change, where this focus of this electricity supply program is focused, is the supply charges section. This is basically, delivery is all the infrastructure about how the power gets to you after it's produced. That's what Central Hudson does. What you pay for in the supply charges section is the production of the electricity. This is how you pay for how it's made, where it's made, and who's making it, if that matters to you. This is what it looks like. 3 line items. Something called the MFC supply charge, which is the merchant function charge. I'm showing off with my acronyms. The market price, which is the fluctuating typical market price, and then an adjustment, which can be positive or negative. If you add up these 3 numbers here, which are in dollars per kilowatt hour, add them up, that's your supply charge. And it's different every month. Central Hudson cannot fix their supply rate, so they change every single month. If I add up these numbers, this is about a little over 10 cents per kilowatt hour. Just again, shown in dollars per kilowatt hour. Every line item has this kilowatt hours. That is how much this customer, me in this case, used in this particular month. So every line has 761 kilowatt hours multiplied by the rate for delivery for every line, same for supply for the rates down here, to get your respective delivery charges and supply charges. If you have a private contract, if you enter into a private ESCO contract, or you participate with an ESCO through the CCA program, the 3 line items turn into just 1 line item. So 3 line items go away, replaced by 1 line item right here. 761 kilowatt hours, and this is the previous contract, the first contract that Beacon did. Our rate was, in a different world with different rates, it was 6.361 cents per kilowatt hour back then. That's the program rate. That is the whole program right there. There's no entry fees, there's no exit fees, there's no, the administrative fee that pays for my nonprofit and for Jewel to support the program, it's baked into this one number. This is the negotiated rate that all the community said, that's good enough, we're going to do that program. This was, during that program, the 100% renewable rate. So it's all there. That's the whole program in that 1 line item, in that 1 rate. Questions about that before I move on?
That's both supply and production?
This is just supply. Okay. Delivery stays the same. So delivery stays the same. This is just supply charges now in 1 item. Yes?
So essentially, your company went out and negotiated a price for 2 years from all your suppliers, and that's what you're going to pay a piece of that, and
yes,
some
8/100 of that
administration and stuff like that, but that's how they keep it steady. And they make a profit because there's a slight gap. They sometimes run over with costs, under with costs, but
and they probably, supplier bakes in a little bit of profit for themselves too. Yeah. But it's a lovely little symbiotic thing that's not based on subsidies. It's just the natural marketplace, competitiveness, and everybody kind of wins. I mean, it is nice that way. The one risk, that rate was probably higher than Central Hudson's rates a number of months. But over the life of that 2 years program, it did well. Other questions about that before I move on and talk about community solar? Yeah.
Yeah, I came in late, so forgive me if I'm being redundant.
I will forgive you. I'm being redundant.
We have an association through our bill with Solstice.
Oh, perfect timing.
Now, is Solstice
transitioning right here
in the picture or out of the picture?
Perfect timing. So the next thing I was going to talk about is right down here. I am a customer of Nexamp, which is a Solstice and Nexamp and Ampion and many other companies are all community solar companies.
Right.
I've got a big, beautiful oak tree in my neighbor's yard. I can't have solar panels on my home. So I took advantage of this program, which wonderfully and very confusingly started about the same time that the supply program started. Again, this is community choice aggregation. That thing is called community solar. They both begin with community, so it's no wonder people get confused. Community solar is, again, it's something that if you do not have solar on your home or business, you can take advantage of the blossoming of solar projects through community solar, where you become a virtual owner, you subscribe to a portion of a solar field that, kind of cool, it has to be in the same utility territory that you're part of. That is something where you subscribe and you help that company, in your case it was Solstice, meet the state requirement of a community solar program, meaning every one of the solar panels that they put on those acres and acres has to have a subscriber assigned to it, who's deriving some benefit from that. They look at your historic usage to determine how much of that solar field to give you. So they do look at your usage, but that's just to determine what proportion of the field to give you. The benefit that you get for community solar is just a monetary benefit. People get confused and they're like, I'm a community solar subscriber, so that means I'm powered by renewable power. I'm connected to a solar field, so I have this relationship with them. In truth, you're not. You're just in a symbiotic relationship where you help them get a subscriber, which is fabulous, because you did help that project happen. They get more subsidy from the state for that type of project. In return, through a black box formula, they give you money back. It's called a community distributed generation credit. And it's structured typically for most of those arrangements, myself and I think yours, to be about 10% of your total electric spend. And it shows up right down here. It's not in the supply section, it's down in the payments and adjustments section. So this is the community distributed generation credit. Lots of acronyms. CDG credit. For me that month it was an $81 deduction. Most arrangements have a two-bill arrangement. You get the deduction. It looks like a really big, nice, sizable deduction on your bill. But for that same concurrent month, you pay back exactly, if you're in the 10% arrangement, you pay back exactly 90% of that credit to that company. So the end result being a 10% savings. It's cool. I mean, you are saving 10%. So that's the arrangement. But you do not have rights to the electrons. You can't say that, nor do you have the claim that I'm powered by that renewable field. Those renewable attributes that you do get through our supply program, there's renewable energy certificates attached to every electron part of the CCA program. That's how you basically prove that you're paying for renewables. Not the case for community solar. So not to down, community solar is fabulous. I do it. If you don't have solar, there's no reason not to do it. Many companies have it without restriction. You can get out anytime you want. But I like to bring it up because people confuse it, but to emphasize, they live on different parts of the bill, meaning they are parallel opportunities, meaning you can do one or the other, or neither, or both. You can mix or match the CCA supply program and community solar. Does that help? Talk a lot.
Yeah.
All right, any questions about that?
So you don't need to own a house then, you can do...
That's the beautiful thing about community solar. No, you can be an apartment liver, apartment dweller, as they say. As long as you have a meter, as long as you have a Central Hudson account, you can be a community solar subscriber. Yes?
If you already have solar on your house, will my bill continue to show that I'm pumping out X amount of kilowatts to the grid?
If you're in the CCA program?
No, if you're just in my own solar.
Yeah, but you're saying, the arrangement you make when you put, the question is like, what impact might there be if I have solar on my home or business? Where you have what they used to call a net metering arrangement, which is a contract established by the provider, Central Hudson, where excess production, you get a wholesale rate kind of fixed in the contract. You sell that back at that rate, you get paid, and it kind of accumulates, and then you can buy it down based on usage. That is completely unaffected by this program. That also lives down in the payments and adjustments section. So just like community solar does. So that's why I say solar / community solar, it all lives in that separate section from the program supply section. Yeah?
So opt-in, opt-out, do community solar or not.
Yep. Mix or match.
You contact Central Hudson directly.
No, you don't going to get out of the program or in the program?
Correct.
You can. If you want to opt out of the program, they can't opt you into the program.
Okay,
Contact us. We have that program number. I'll put that up there to 845-859-9099.
Okay.
But if you hate this program And you feel like, if Rhinebeck does this again, I don't want to be part of it. That thing I talked about, why people are not included, the block on your account, you can say, hey, Central Hudson, put a block on my account. That takes you out of the program immediately if you're in it, and it won't let you ever be in it again until you remove the block.
Okay. So I am one of those people that did not get a letter to my knowledge. So I'm curious about it, and I just want to know the right channels.
It's good to talk to Central Hudson, just to make sure none of those situations apply. Like, as I said, it surprises me. Shouldn't surprise me anymore, but how many people have forgotten that they placed a block on their account. And actually, many people forget that they're actually in a third-party contract, too. A lot of people don't look at their utility bills.
Can I just ask one clarifying question?
Yes.
Is this just for the town residents of Rhinebeck or the village as well?
Yes, I did say that at the beginning, I'll repeat it. Okay. Yes, this is just the town right now. The village did not do this. But we talked about fuzzy borders.
Yeah.
And how Central Hudson might think that some village residents are actually part of the town because of the way their power lines run. I picture it like a bowl of spaghetti, and that's how their borders look.
I want to come back to what you just said about solar. We have our own solar panels.
Yep. Yep.
And right now, we're billed on a net basis.
Yep.
Okay, now what you just said is that under this arrangement, the amount that we sell may be at a different rate than the electricity that we buy?
Typically, that's the way net metering works.
What's
yeah.
the question?
I'll repeat the question. It's about having solar, and he's talking about the net metering arrangement. And he's saying, well, as I understand net metering, when you're in that arrangement, whenever you sell back excess, it's at a pre-established wholesale rate. And that's what you get paid when you overproduce. And most people who have solar, 75% of the year, they're doing wonderfully. Their system is producing as much as they need or more, and they're banking it. But for most customers with solar, there are months like in the winter when the sun's at a lower angle, you're not producing as much as you need. And so despite how much you banked, for every kilowatt hour that you did not compensate through your production, you do have to buy electricity during those months. You're still connected to the grid. The rate you'd pay to buy electricity, this is getting into the weeds, I apologize, but the rate you'd pay during those months when your system did not produce enough such that you have to buy, it would be whatever the Central Hudson rate is that month.
Right.
Or if you're in the program, it would always be the same rate if you're in the program.
Okay, well, let's suppose we're in the summer and we're overproducing.
Yep.
Okay.
You're not buying electricity at all, so it doesn't matter what the rates are for supply.
Well, you're building up kilowatt, yeah, because it basically is it's making your meter run backward.
Yep.
Because the only reading that Central Hudson takes from our meter is the net.
Well, they keep track of all kilowatt hours, right? They do. They track your kilowatt hour production and your usage.
It's on the meter, but it doesn't show up on our bill.
It probably does.
Actually, I've been over that bill with a fine-tooth comb.
Well, we'll dig into this afterwards. We'll have a subgroup for people with solar at the end. You lucky people. All right, so who's included and who's not? I think we've kind of repeated this. Generally, that initial opt-out condition established by deregulation back in the 90s, if you're in that original opt-out condition where the state said if you didn't go into a private contract that Central Hudson's making your choice, for the most part, all of those people are the eligible customers, but there are exceptions. So if you're in the 3-line item situation where Central Hudson is making your supply choice, you were generally included in the program, except for, well, the first group that's not included is anybody who has a third-party supply contract already. So if you're already with Meridian or Ambit or Inspire or Green Mountain Energy, you already opted out of the original condition, so you opted out of the CCA program too. So you're not included. So you didn't get a bill. If you want to join the program, check to see that there's no penalties for entering your contract. Typically there's not after 12 months, and even some companies don't have penalties. But you can always end your contract or wait till it ends and join. Anybody within municipal borders can join the program. But in the original condition, again, people who have a block on their account is the second bullet. So if you placed a block on your account, you're not included. If you're in the Income Qualified Home Energy Assistance Program, the HEAP program, you're not included either automatically. Again, any of these folks can join if they want to, but HEAP customers are not included because we can't guarantee that the program is going to be better than Central Hudson's rate. It's not a guaranteed savings. So it was thought best for people who are income qualified to not be automatically included. second to last is time of use accounts. More and more people are doing this because they're charging electric vehicles at night. You get the two rates, the high peak and the low. It's not compatible with our fixed rate, so you're not automatically included. And then the last one is customers with a demand meter. That's larger customers, typically not residential. Typically not most small businesses, but a library and larger can be. They have what's called a demand meter because they use more electricity than a certain threshold. They have a standing demand charge and use the favorable rate that goes with it. But those are the major categories of folks not included. So let me stop and see if there's questions there. Yeah?
Why is the village not in on this?
They just chose not to do it.
How does the village-
Not yet, anyway, maybe. Yeah.
Who makes that decision?
About being in the program or not?
Yeah.
It's the leadership,
So it'd be like the,
people with pitchforks and torches asking them to do it.
okay.
I think people need to have to go to the village, because we've asked and nothing's happened, so we need more people in it.
They need to see a crowd wanting.
There was a joke about the pitchforks. Disclaimer, I was joking. Put that on camera. Okay, so if you don't want to be included, these are the ways, plus one that's not on there, that you can not be in the program. So anyone who's in that original grouping and they're not part of those exceptions, you'll be automatically included when the program starts in July. If you don't want to be in it, you can call us up at the helpline. You can send in, the letters went out with what's called an opt-out reply card in a prepaid envelope. You can just check, the Public Service Commission wanted a survey on it this time around. That was not us asking why you want to not be in it. But just check one of those, put it in an envelope and send it off. It goes to supplier, you're out of the program. Or there is a form on the website where you can just enter your information and opt out. And the fourth one is you can tell me in person at public meetings that we do. I just need your name and address and I can opt out of the program. So that's the way to get out of the program. So these are the rates. Take a walk over there. The company that we picked is Direct Energy. It happened to be the first company that we picked the first time we did this with 10 communities in the Hudson Valley. This is very wonderfully confusing. This is not the one for, let me switch the slide. So different communities chose different rates to be their default. But it's all the same set of rates. Yeah, here we go. All right, same rates, same table. The only thing that's different about this table is where this is, the parentheses default. All right, so we picked Direct Energy. All the communities agreed to do a 24, there was different amounts of time length, contract length, but 24 months and these rates was considered to be the choice that they wanted to do. The 100% renewable, I always talk in cents, not dollars. It's shown in dollars, but it's also, this is equivalent to 12.24 cents per kilowatt hour. The 50-50, which again, it's 100%, but it's 50% New York State source renewable and 50% out-of-state renewable. That's 11.24 cents, very conveniently 1 penny less. And then there's the standard rate at 9.87 cents per kilowatt hour. All of the rates are fixed for 24 months. Anyone could choose and change at any time if they want. But if you don't take action, each community had to pick a default, and the town of Rhinebeck wonderfully went with 100% renewable to support renewables in New York State, as did Gardner and Cold Spring and the village of New Paltz. Questions?
Does the CAA standard have any renewable energy?
It does. It does. About 10 to 15%. That could fluctuate, but that's typically what is the source.
From New York State?
Yes, I think. I actually have to double. I forget actually where they have a requirement on where they get the renewables from. So I don't know that actually. Yeah.
Who is Direct Energy Services?
Direct Energy Services is a private energy supply company based, I think, in Oklahoma. They do lots of different things. They do fossil energy too. But through this program, they are interested and have been interested in doing CCA programs. They like the idea of supporting renewables. While they do non-renewables elsewhere, they are handcuffed to do this during the contract period, which is kind of the beauty of this program. There's a question over here? Yeah.
If we don't opt out, we've opted in.
Correct.
If we've opted in by not opting out, we then call the number if we want a choice other than 100%?
Exactly, yes. Thank you for that. So, yes, you can opt out of the program using the supply card. That's the only thing you can do with that reply card, is opt out. If you want to stay in and you want the default, do nothing. If you want to stay in but pick one of the non-default rates, you can use the website, or you could call us, or you could see us in person and give us the information. Thank you for that. I don't think I was going to say that. All right, we're getting there. All right, all right, so the details, the timeline, the letters went out, I think on Monday of 2 weeks ago, and they landed in mailboxes in the middle of May. For those of you receiving the letter, it explained the whole program. It had an FAQ, a decent FAQ, front and back of the page. There's more on the website, a lot more FAQs on the website, but explaining the opt-out options, how the reply card. If you want to opt out, you just need name and address, so you don't need a reply card if you've lost it or you've misplaced it. If you are not in the program, if you didn't get the letter and you want to receive the letter in the FAQ, I can send that to you. Just make sure you give me your email, and I can email you the letter that went out to everyone else in Rhinebeck. When the letters went out, that started a 30-day opt-out period. It's confusing to call it that. It's the 30 days. If you don't ever want to be part of it, you can choose to not be part of it. But if you stay in it, you can always opt out, as I think we've probably said at least 10 times tonight. So the launch will happen in July, after your at your meter read date in July, and that's when the line item change will happen on your bill. So I would have actually made a slide for this. To your question, how to change enrollment if you want to stay in. So the top is to opt out, repeating what we said before, reply card, call the helpline, or use the website. That second set of numbers, to change your supply choice, you have to call us or use the website or see us in person. And I'm not saying to come visit me in my house, I'm saying we do public events. And you can see us. All right, this is just summing up the benefits. It is very supportive, has real implications for the proportion of renewables on the New York State grid and elsewhere, to the 50%. They are competitive rates. There's very much, and I think what's more broadly appreciated are the consumer protection elements of the program, and it is about choice. You know, it is an additional choice. Very importantly, it doesn't take away your ability to have Central Hudson make your choice, and it doesn't take away your ability to enter into a private contract. So it is just an additional choice, even though it's structured as not that. So 3 slides of FAQs. The first one is about the utility company. Just making sure people understand you do not displace Central Hudson. So does the program replace my utility company? No. You continue to pay your bill, and that's the only thing you pay. There's no separate bill for this program. Does it impact reliability? We spoke about this. You are still connected to the whole grid. Even if you're supporting 100% renewables through your payment, through your bill, you're still connected to the grid. There's no interruption in your reliability. Will the program save me money? We don't know. We think it will. And then again, apples to oranges, apples to apples. It will save you money, apples to apples, for the 100% renewable or the 50% renewable versus what you can get on your own. It's the apples to oranges that we don't know if they'll save you money. And then if you're talking brown apples to brown apples, with the standard rate to the utility rate, same story there. Repeating this, what if I want to change my supply choice? This is repeating what we just saw in the previous slide with the bullets. You can do so at any time. Last slide, do I have to stay in the program the entire time? Nope. You can get out at any time, you can get back in too. The second to last, can I participate if I have my own solar panels or if I participate in community solar? And the answer to that is yes. They are compatible, 2 separate things, 2 separate sections of the bill. And then the last one is what happens when the program ends, and we did say that. If the municipality doesn't repeat it, everyone just goes back to Central Hudson making supply choice. But the municipality can, and other municipalities have, done sequential contracts, so it's possible. So I'll put out the contact information. I'll put out my forms here if you want to email, if you want me to send you anything, let me know. But any other questions? Yeah.
The question I have is Central Hudson is the one who reads the meters still?
They're going to read
and
meters.
And they do it every other month. They always have this estimated thing.
Yeah, for
that's
now.
Just ridiculous.
There's, Michelle.
Is this, would that help?
Yeah.
That would help, this signing up for this would help in?
Well, it will help set your rates. And in a bigger picture story, they're kind of cool thing about the program, because the grid's changing. It needs to change. The grid is unreliable and inefficient still, what we got. We got a very old grid. This program is part of a suite of things that was decided on about 2014, about like, let's change the whole thing. Let's reform the energy vision is what it was called back then, the REV, still is, the REV. this is part of this whole change of like getting us towards a smarter grid, more efficient grid, more distributed grid. This is one program that's very significant. It's actually recognized quite widely as the most significant current tool that the state has to help meet its state goals for climate change. So it's really wonderful in that way. But it is, you know, it's a mechanism that has, as it's turned out, that gives a municipality basically a champion, a Sherpa, a guide to navigate the changes in the energy marketplace as the grid changes. During that reforming the energy vision process, many people have understood and paid premiums to support renewables in the past, but it was seen that you could actually create changes in the grid in a way that has symbiotic benefits for consumers. And this is one mechanism of how it's done. But additionally, when everything was going haywire at Central Hudson, we were the ones on the front line that started to notice it first. Reported this, actually got the elected officials to be aware of what was happening. And Jewel plays a nice role in watchdogging the change, the compliance that Central Hudson's doing. So it's really a wonderful mechanism to give community members guidance on how to make choices in this evolving grid. But it actually does have that wonderful watchdogging role as well. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll cover this first.
You mentioned that on purpose, this is a 24-month contract and kind of glossed over that from there. I'm presuming that's because you want to be able to negotiate again?
Several reasons, yeah. It's because you don't know how rates will change. Maybe they'll improve after a period of time. But a very significant portion of it, and I'm sorry if it seemed like I was glossing, but it's structured, it's required to be a fixed period of time so that people aren't stuck in an endless contract. It's not an open-ended contract because we are busy people and many people don't pay attention to their utility bills. So this is structured, you know, it's within the confined time frame. It's likely to deliver all three of the benefits, including the cost benefits, but it does give you the flexibility, as you said, to determine what's happening at the end of the contract period to see where it should go next. Yeah.
Would you
I'm sorry, your question.
So the prices that we see on this chart, these are the guaranteed prices
Yes.
for the next
Yep.
24 months.
They will stay that way.
And the Central Hudson
Oh, yes.
fee is just an average.
Thank you for that, yeah.
year.
That Central Hudson rate shown on the table, that is the average of the previous 12 months. And so that, yeah, and so we were better than that average and we're still doing pretty well. But Central Hudson's latest published rate in pay is 10.99 cents. So it's still up there. All right, yes?
So would you receive another letter after 2 years?
If the town does it again, yes.
And if not, you just see your bill change?
You would actually receive a letter.
Okay.
People who stay in the program now, like in July, or actually at the end of June, I should have said this, you will get a letter and or an email from Central Hudson saying, hey, we're about to put you into this program with Direct Energy as a CCA program. You can still get out if you want, but we're letting you know that this is happening, which is great from our perspective. It's another public notice that this is happening. At the end of the contract, too, they do the same thing. If the town doesn't do it again, they're like, hey, we're about to take you out of this program and put you back to us. So you'd get a notice then, too.
So if you're having any kind of electrical problems or failure or questions about your bill, you would call Central Hudson?
Yes, anything delivery related. If it's about the program rate and the supply and something's funny about that, doesn't look right, then you call us and we can check on it for you. But yes, anything delivery related, anything else pretty much is Central Hudson. Yes?
You briefly mentioned subsidies. How significant is that determining competitive rates?
There is no subsidy baked into this program. There is, you know, I mean, to get away from, I used to teach energy policy at Bard, and I know all about subsidies for fossils and renewables. But just keeping it simple, there's no subsidies baked into this program. It's just competitively, they looked at the market, what's happening in the kind of the global marketplace, and this is what they did and was offered. And if it made sense, the communities went forward with it. And the communities didn't have to right up until the last minute. The town of Clinton was part of the group too, but to the last minute they decided not to do it. Yeah.
The 2-year cycle starts in July?
Correct. Through June of 2025. All right, thanks everybody.
Thank you.